Hello, Dr. Vels here. In this video I'm going to go on about PL-259s, also known as UHF connectors, back in the day when UHF was not what we understand UHF to be today. And I've also seen these referred to as M connectors, not N connectors but M connectors. I really struggle with these. This is a clamp type where the coaxial braid is clamped within here, and then the inner conductor should be soldered to the pin at the other end. Sadly, mine's broken. The insulator in there is melted and the pin came out, and the whole thing is a load of rubbish. It's probably the way I've done it, the way I've put it together, the way I've terminated it on the RG-58 coax, but I've not been having much luck with this. Another type of PL-259 is the solder type, and that's the only other type I've used, where you solder the centre pin, and here there's a hole in the connector body which is designed to have solder dribbled through it to connect to the coaxial braid. And it took me a while to master that one, and I've had varying success with those as well. But today I'm going to try something different. Okay, it's still a clamp type PL-259, and it's from Radioworld. These are really well packaged actually. Messi and Paoloni Airborne 5, RG-58 and RG-223 PL-259s, or UHF connectors. And there they are in their packets. No braid soldering needed. Humidity proof design. Messi and Paoloni. Professional connectors. Perfect match with M and P Pro cables. Dramatic suppression, background noise. So let's try that. Messi and Paoloni do have some instructions on the internet, so I shall endeavour to cover those and see what success I have. Wish me luck. I've put this bit of cardboard down, which is actually a bit of old breakfast cereal packet, just to catch any bits of braid and bits of wire. You don't want those in the carpet, digging in your feet or getting in your fingers, because they're quite fine and sharp. So I've put this down to hopefully collect any bits and bobs. And first of all, I'm just going to cut this off. You know what? It's gone. Get rid of that rubbish. What we're doing with it. Right. You can see these are slightly different shape. They're sort of smaller diameter there, and then they open up to the expected diameter at the connector end. You'll see that more closely in a bit. This is the whole thing taken out of its packet, and I've unscrewed the plug. So you got the body there, you got the pin, you got this here, you got the washer, you got the nut that screws in the end with a O-ring on it, and then separately there was this little plastic piece, and there's some heat shrink as well. So I'll have a look at the instructions and see what they say. First thing is to thread this nut, then the washer, and then this rubbery sleeve onto the cable. This sleeve fits quite snugly onto the cable, but is not difficult to get on. The next step in the instructions is to remove 18mm, which is approximately 7/10 of an inch of the insulation from the coax. The next instruction is to make 2 cuts along the length of the coax that are 6mm long. So from there to there, one on one side and one on the opposite side. Can't really see them on my video, but they are there. Just used a sharp knife. The next step is to fold all this braid back over this part of the cable here. So it looks like that, and then this piece should be opened up slightly here where it's split, and then pushed into there. Then this rubber piece is slid up there like that, and the whole thing is compressed together. And then all this excess braid should be cut off. So as you can see, it's all been nicely trimmed, and these are all the clippings, and they just look like little hairs. That's just bits of the braid. Believe me, they are not soft, and they are very sharp, and quite nasty if you get one stuck in your finger. So be careful of those. But yeah, that's all nicely trimmed off, ready for the next stage, which is to strip this plastic coating off the wire along its entire length. So this should be fun. That's been stripped quite nicely, much easier than I thought it would be. There we are. And the instructions I've seen suggest that we slide this on next, but in their instructions this centre pin is already inserted into there, and in their instructions this centre pin has a cutout in it to allow the coaxial centre conductor to be soldered at the end. The pin on mine does not, although there is a small hole there. Also, I don't know what to do with this piece here, but it does fit in there, but it doesn't fit on the end of there. It does not fit there. The pin does not fit through that hole. So I may just leave that out. Who knows? So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to solder the wire through that hole there. I've pushed the coaxial wire into the pin, and I've put a little dab of flux in the solder hole there, and I've just used this solder reel just to weigh everything down to stop things sliding around. So that should be okay to solder. Well, there it is. I applied the iron here to heat up the wire and the pin, and then fed the solder in there. Took a bit of heating, but nothing too drastic. Try not to put too much solder in. I didn't want to make this all bulbous around here, because of course it's got to fit in here. So the next stage is to put this on there and then tighten it all up. Well, I've found that when I push this over there, that way, that this section here does not fit entirely in there. And then when I removed this, all this wire became bent. So I think due to the fact that this wire here doesn't go all the way through there, I need to desolder this and shorten this wire and try again. Well, there we are. I've shortened the wire by a considerable amount. The trouble is there's now solder in that pin, so what I'm going to have to do is heat the pin up and push it on to the wire. Might use a bit of flux on this as well. We'll see how it goes. How about that then? That wasn't too bad at all. I just heated the pin up and then pushed it onto the wire, and it's soldered. Just going to let it cool down before I try and fit the body of the plug. It's amazing how warm these pins stay. A lot of heat is involved in this process, so please do be careful. I hope this works. Look at that. It fits. Next part is to screw that together using a pair of spanners. There it is, all nicely tightened up, looking quite good. This is normally connected to a 49:1 transformer, which would present a short across there and the pin, the outer and the pin. At the moment I have disconnected it, so when I measure with a meter between the centre and the outer, it should read as open. And then I will reconnect the transformer and measure again to see if there is a short there. And if there is a short there, we know that everything is connected. So first of all we'll measure for an open, then connect it to the transformer, and then we'll measure for a short. If your coax is not normally connected to a transformer, then you can just short the other end with a temporary piece of wire. I know you can't see the meter here, but I'm just measuring for a short when I'm not expecting a short, because it should be open, and it is open. So there's me just measuring between the pin and the outer. And now I'm going to connect the transformer to the coax, and we'll see, well, we should see that there is a short. I've just connected the transformer to the other end of the coax. I'll just measure it. You can't see the meter here, but I'll just show you me measuring it. And yes, it's measuring as a short. So that's really good news. So that coax is now properly connected to the connector, and what I like about this connector is it's a nice fit around the coax there. It just feels nice. The screw action there is really smooth. It just shouts quality, really. It's really nice, and that's turning around there, and the coax isn't turning there, which is also a good thing. So here we are then. Try and screw that one there. It's screwing really freely. It's just going into that socket, and the coax is stable there. It's really nicely clamped in, and the coax did not rotate when I rotated this end of the plug as well. So yeah, a really good thing, that, a really good plug. So thank you very much, Messi and Paoloni. It's a really good quality connector, and a little more expensive than some of the others, but yeah, you can definitely tell the pro choice. I have no connection with Messi and Paoloni, and I have no commercial interest in Radioworld of Walsall. I'm just a happy customer. I've used Radioworld before, and they just don't disappoint. They're a great company. I thoroughly recommend that you give them a ring, go and look at their shop or look at their website to see what's what. They have some great things on offer. Well, thank you very much for watching. I hope that was interesting and just shows you that things don't always go smoothly. In fact, things rarely do go smoothly. And I hope you may try the Messi and Paoloni connectors for yourself, because I tell you what, I'm going to buy some more. See you later. Bye. And there it is in action. Typical for a weekend. There's a contest on, but yeah, it's receiving signals. Had a quick check of the SWR and it seems to be okay. So yeah, nice one.